Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the Tales of Sigmar Podcast. As always, I am your host Chalmers, and alongside me is my co-host Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Chalmers, and how are you?
I'm excited. We are a few days away from the Dominion pre-order, so yeah, it's AoS 3 is upon us.
Not long to go. It's that funny period between it's nearly here, but actually it's 2 and a bit weeks away, and
it's the calm before
it kind
the
of
storm.
feels.
Yeah, it's like the pre-orders are out on Saturday, so this is Tuesday that we're recording. Pre-orders are up on Saturday, but it doesn't actually release until the 3rd of July, so everyone's kind of in limbo a little bit of...
Yeah, and we keep getting drip-fed bits. I know we've got the we'll talk about it later, but the rules of being released online, but then you've got to try and work out how does that all fit in with all the other pieces, and bit by bit we start to learn a little bit more.
Definitely. So like we said, we are going to talk about core rules a little bit later. We're not going to go into anything too big in detail. There's been a lot of podcasts and YouTube channels and whatnot that have obviously had preview copies and have done a lot more in-depth kind of visions of the whole rulebook, so it's pointless us rehashing old ground. But we're going to kind of talk about our initial thoughts about it before we properly go into it when we get the full rulebook. Like, I've read the core rules, but without the GHB and without everything else, it's a bit hard to work out what's good and what's bad out of it.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that in the part 2. But in the first half, we actually went to a real life event, or I went to a real life event.
Half of us went.
Real life events are back.
Indeed. It's about time.
Felt a bit weird.
You didn't have to travel far for it as well either.
No, so it was at Sunderland at Battle Bunker, and it is literally about 20 minutes away from Newcastle, so nice local event for us. Justin is doing a AoS Championships, which is it's like a culmination of, I think it's 6 rounds, and then like the top people. So basically, the more events you attend, you earn more ranking points, you almost call them, and then the top, I think it's top 20, then get invited to the final, which is in December. Nice. Unfortunately, I can't go because it's my son's birthday. So
you can never go. It was the same with the Northern Masters.
No,
you can never make these finals, can you?
No. So it doesn't matter how good you do. It's just
You'll be there in spirit.
Definitely, but no. So Justin kind of ran this one, and we actually it was meant to be 30 people, and we had 4 dropouts on the day, which was a shame, but. Right. I think a couple of them were COVID related, so I'd rather them stay at home than come down and potentially
we're still in uncertain times, aren't we? So if in doubt, definitely. Stay home.
I think that's the longest as well. I actually wore a mask in a day since COVID come around, so that was a little bit weird because normally, like working from home, obviously you don't have to wear one. So the only time I really wear masks is when you go to the shops or whatnot. So
yeah.
Wearing it from literally the 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 at night, I think it was. It was a long old day.
It was smelling nice and fresh by the end of it all.
Yeah, well, we kept on escaping outside. It was baking hot as well, so that was a bonus. But it was different, but at least it was rolling some dice and playing 3 games. And with the, obviously, as we've just touched on, the end of AoS 2, it seemed like a kind of fitting place to do an event before the end of the current edition.
Bit of a goodbye to AoS 2.
Definitely. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that in this episode. And I ended up taking Sons of Behemat.
Yeah, even though you said for a long time you were definitely taking your Deepkin because you would paint them up lovely, and you were definitely going to do that, and all of this about week and a half beforehand. It was like, I've bought a Mega-Gargant and I've got 2 more on the way. And
yeah, it was on the
very
Friday.
Quickly escalated, didn't it?
I think it was on the Friday the week before, when for some reason in the back of my head went, go and do some giants, and then I went, I don't really want to, and then before I knew it, I was at a hobby shop and I'd bought a Mega-Gargant and ordered a couple more. So yeah, I just did my normal thing of painting up an army in a week.
Yeah, and obviously, because you didn't know the rules very well and it was a brand new army, you hadn't had much practice with it, you did terrible as well with it, didn't you?
Yeah, we'll kind of touch on that in a bit. No, I managed to get one. So I spent kind of all of last week painting, probably until about 1 a.m. almost every single day. Like I already had the 3 man crushes painted from May last year, 2020, when
Because you were going to do this a while ago, weren't you?
I was going to do it the day it got announced. Like that was the thing. I had the Gargants like from original AoS 1, like the man crushers in the garage, and I kind of fished them out. I found a couple new on sprue, so I converted a couple, painted them all up, and I was like, get in, and then just what was it? It got revealed in May, and it came out in October.
Yeah, and we'd stopped playing by that point from the summer break.
And I'd lost all hobby mojo. I was doing playing computer games all the time, so it kind of came out, and I was like, yeah, okay. Like it just kind of passed me by. So yeah, I had a bit of an advantage that 3 of the man crushers were painted already, but 3 Mega-Gargants is still a week's worth of painting. It finds out because I finished at 2 a.m. on Friday night, so Saturday morning. So
there you go.
it was
nothing like keep leaving it to the last minute.
Yeah, it was a bit of a slog, but you know what? I kind of missed it, like that painting to a deadline. I kind of said to myself during lockdown that, like, coming out of lockdown, it's like, actually, let's not rush to paint stuff. Let's take your time, enjoy it, and just take whatever to an event. And then the very first event back, I went back to my old ways. So yeah, I took Sons of Beermat.
Fair enough. How did you find they played then overall? Without going, we'll go into the games later on, but
yes,
were they how you thought they would be, or
they were? So obviously, I've played more tribes quite a bit with the Stonehorns and Monfang. I really like it. It's kind of minimal model count. They're worth lots on objectives. They can hit quite hard, and they're nice and simple to push around the table. I say simple. You still got to think because you do have only half the models than your opponent, but it's a very straightforward play the objectives and survive. So kind of I had that experience with the Mega-Gargants already, like in the same kind of way to play, and yeah, I found them just a kind of a better version of more tribes, to be honest.
Fair enough. We know more tribes aren't bad. They've done well for a long time.
More tribes, I would say, are still a solid army. I mean, they were on table 2 the last game, so yeah, they're still a solid army. It's just man crushers. Mega-Gargants are worth 20 models instead of 10 models. They've got 35 wounds, so they take a lot of damage to actually get down. They hardly really degrade. That's the one thing I found all weekend. It's like, oh, you've done 22 wounds. Oh, I've lost like 2 attacks. Who cares? And all of their attacks are like really heavy damage. And the man crushers, the battle line units, like they put out a lot of attacks. Like each of those man crushers put out 10 attacks when they're not damaged with their club.
Yeah. So it's a hefty unit in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and they just go in and it's like, oh, I'm doing 30 attacks, hitting on 2s or 3s and wounding on 3s and -1 rend and 1 damage, but it's just weight of dice. Like it's such a solid thing. So I may as well quickly go through my list. I took the Breaker tribe, and this is the one we're about to focus on, the Gatebreaker Mega-Gargants.
Right.
You get +1 damage for the man crushers if you're attacking a unit that's garrisoned, or is wholly within terrain. So my main thinking was that is if you're playing KO, then you can attack the units inside and get +1 damage.
Always useful.
So definitely useful. You can also destroy terrain as well, which didn't really come into effect in my games, but the man crushers, you roll a dice for a terrain piece near you, you add the number of man crushers you've got in your unit, and on a 7+, you destroy that piece of terrain. So pretty decent.
Yep, sounds like good practice for AoS 3.
Definitely. The gate breakers though, they have the +1 damage built into their war scroll for the fighting terrain and units and terrain and garrison, but
Right.
they have a it's called a crushing stomp or something like that. It's similar to the destroy terrain, but it literally goes on like a 2+, and that degrades. So that can be quite big. I mean, like I said, it didn't really come up in any of the games that I played, but I can see it in certain matchups being very good, and like you said, in AoS 3 being a kind of very big thing for him to just smash up terrain on a 2+.
Yeah.
Is huge. So yeah, I took a Gatebreaker Mega-Gargant as my general. I took a second Gatebreaker Mega-Gargant, and he was having the Realm of Shaman Plate of Perfect Protection to ignore Rend 1.
Yep.
Then I had a Kraken Eater Mega-Gargant, which was basically just to kick objectives around and kind of control the board a bit more. And then 1 unit of 3 Man Crusher Gargants. So they, with Sons of Behemat, if you take a unit of 3, they count as all 3 of your battle line, and you get a points discount. At the moment, whether AoS 3 changes that, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the list. Now with the Breaker Tribe, you get to choose not a command trait, but a kind of an allegiance ability whereabouts you get +1 to hit for a specific thing. There's 6 different options that you can choose from. So I chose Shinians and Clever Clogs, which is you get +1 to hit against heroes and wizards, if they've got the hero or wizard keyword.
Yep.
So
they've got some great names, haven't they?
Oh, definitely. And that was kind of, I was thinking, well, against things like Lumineth, if they cropped up, with the wizard keyword, you're kind of getting +1 to hit against all of their units.
Yep.
Because to champion each of theirs is a wizard. And +1 hit against heroes is kind of a no-brainer. And then I took a extra command trait, which is you can take a second one of these options. And for that I chose Idiots with Flags. And this gives me +1 to hit against the totem keyword, which at the minute it doesn't really come up that much. You've got the kind of War Shrine, the Bloodsecrator banner, Night Vexler, if you ever see that anymore. There's probably a couple more that I can't think of at the minute, but
yeah.
AoS 3 seems to be bringing totems back quite a bit. You've got the new Night Vexler and the Merc Knob in the Dominion box set.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be... it's a rule written more for 3 than it was for 2.
Yes, and especially with talking about AoS 3 is that totems can now do command abilities, give up command abilities. So feels like that kind of there's going to be more of these showing up in the future games.
Absolutely, you're going to see them a lot more, aren't you?
Yeah. And the other thing that gives you +1 to hit, so apart from the totem keyword, is any units with command models. And I had to ask Ben Johnson on Twitter what the hell a command model was. Because
it's not something you come across a lot, is it?
And then Ian O'Brien from Just Play podcast replied and went, yeah, it's literally in the key core rules. It's like page 2 or 3, I think it is. He's like, don't worry, everyone looked up what a command model was when the Gargants released. And it's basically any unit that has a champion, standard bearer, musician, anything like that. So it's obviously the old command models that you used to get in fantasy days. And obviously, like most units have them.
That's most units, isn't it?
Yeah, they're never really kind of referred to as command models, apart from in the core rules. So shows that at the end of AoS 2, I'm still learning new rules for the game.
Fair enough. Best way to be.
Yeah, but that seemed like a no-brainer to take, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Like there was one called, I think it's called Shinians. I know I called the first one Shinians. I can't remember what that one is called. It's definitely something in Clever Clogs. But yeah, Shinians is you get +1 to hit against armor saves of 1, 2, 3, or 4+, which sounds good because obviously it will kind of combat things like Caradon ships and stuff.
Yep.
But if you think of a lot of troops have 5+, 6+ saves.
Yeah, so, it depends what you go for, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, so I kind of went, well, actually, if you go with command models, that covers a lot more like units in the game.
Yeah.
So those were the kind of two +1 the hits I got. And that was kind of the list. It's a nice simple list. Like I said, I wanted something that was nice and easy, that didn't really be too taxing on the mind after having 14, 15 months off from tournament. So
yeah, not a lot to remember as such. Like, there's a small set of rules that you need to remember in your head, which always helps.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I printed off AoS reminders for the list, and it was like 1 page long. I was like, that's nice and easy. I don't need that. Like, the Mega-Gargants don't have command abilities, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. There's a couple of extra rules on the War Scrolls for like kind of you can do this if this happens, and the only other allegiance ability, the Man Crushers can chuck rocks if they're wholly within 18 of the general in the shooting phase, and that's really about it. So it was a very straightforward read the War Scrolls and crack on. So yeah, game 1, the draw actually happened on Thursday night, because I was down Battle Bunker and I actually helped with the draw.
Ooh.
So yeah, I got 1 practice game in on Thursday night against Josh's Corn.
Yep.
And that was a bloodbath. Like, I almost tabled him in 2 turns, I think it was.
Wow.
It was one of them where I went, oh, so that's what happens with Gargants. Yeah, it just kind of went, oh, yeah, that's okay. So yeah, we did the draw, and I got drawn against Luminef. And I got drawn against a chap called Will Young, who was, I'm trying to think where he said he was from. I think it was from Whitby, he said it was, that he'd travelled down.
I feel like he's been to them before. The name definitely rings a bell.
Don't think so, because he said this was the first one that he'd ever...
Maybe I'm mixing him up with someone else. But...
Phil Young, sorry, not Will Young, Phil Young. Yeah, Phil Young. And he had Luminef. So I'd never played Luminef yet. No one at the club has Luminef. Like, none of us have got a Luminef army.
So some of us have got it, but none of us have actually built and painted it up.
Okay, let me rephrase that. No one's got a full Luminef army that is built or usable. So yeah, that was a nice surprise, because I've not even played Luminef on like TTS or anything like that, so I didn't really know what to expect for him. He had, now this is trying to remember, Teclis, the Cathalar, the Law Seeker, which is one of the newer models from the Wave 2 release.
Right.
And then he had the Orlon Legion, which is, he had 3 units of 10 Wardens, the Spears, and then he had 1 unit of Sentinels in the Orlon Legion, and then he had 2 units of Sentinels separately.
Right.
Then he had the Spell Portal, and then he was meant to have the Rune of Petrification, or whatever it's called. The Luminef Mortal Wound, one, but he left it at home. Yeah, I tried finding a replacement size for it, but it was like, no, it's fine, it's my fault. So, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect in this, because I was like, oh, it's lots of 10-man units. Like, I know there's lots of wizard spells, but I was kind of reading the Luminef book, and they've not really got many damaging spells.
It's more buffs and kind of...
It's buffs and debuffs.
Yeah.
So we played Starstrike game 1. I out-deployed him. He fought the Orlon. This was one of his first times properly using the army as well. And he fought the Orlon Legion, included all of the units that he had.
Right.
And then I pointed out, no, it's only 2 to 4. He was like, okay. Because I said to him, like, you should probably turn some of them Sentinel units into 20s, because it reduces your drops, and then you can you've got something a bit more kind of substantial. Because lots of 10-man units, it's not exactly anything to kind of shout home about.
No, but do you not need... I can't remember for this one, but do you not need as many Sentinels as you do Wardens? Or is that just to make it battle?
No, so you need for every unit of wardens, you can take a unit of sentinels as battle line.
Yeah.
So he had 3 units of wardens anyway, so he had his battle line.
Fine, yeah.
So he could have done a unit of 20 wardens, a unit of 10 wardens, a unit of 20 sentinels, a unit of 10 sentinels.
Yeah.
And then he's got 2 bigger chunks and then 2 smaller units, but he's in that kind of, he becomes like 4 drop or whatever it is. So I outdropped him, but I gave him first turn because I didn't really know. I knew sentinels. Yeah, this is the thing, because I've never played Lumineth, I don't really know exactly like what their plan was. I mean, I know we went through the battle tome, but until you actually see the army and you see how it's played, it's quite hard to visualize it on the table.
Yep.
So he kind of went in this very rank and file. He had all of his spears in a kind of a almost like a triangle, and then he had his sentinels just behind it. Then he had Teclis behind that. So it was very kind of defensive, and he cast a few.
And which battle plan were you playing?
We're playing Star Strike, so we didn't know for turn 2 when.
Until turn so you don't know where he's going to come down.
Yeah, and then you're still waiting turn 3 as well when the other ones come down. So his turn 1, I had this huge like hill that was mystical terrain, so I just literally deployed all the Mega-Gargants around it because I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm all within an inch. Let's crack on. If you shoot me for a couple of
protection.
So his sentinels, his dice were stupidly hot. Like, he was rolling 9 dice and he was getting like 8 mortal wounds on a 5-up.
Nice.
Which was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. But yeah, he'd managed to cast all of his power of Haish, so everything was going off. Teclis literally just casting 4 spells a turn automatically.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, right, do whatever.
Because he can put the protection spells on, can't he?
He got the protection of Teclis off. Which, in hindsight, I was like, I probably should have gone first then and tried to smash a bit without those 5-ups, because he was making a lot of 5-ups as well.
Yeah.
But I basically went, well, if I get a double turn, then at least I know kind of what I can do. So he did loads of mortal wounds. I think he did about 15 mortal wounds to my Kraken Eater. I didn't make a single mystical save. Seemed to be the whole game he was just doing loads of mortal wounds. I just couldn't make a mystical save to the point of I just moved away from it. I was like, I don't care about it anymore.
Yeah, he gave up on that.
Yeah. But yeah, so he did quite a bit of damage turn 1, and then my turn 1 literally moved to the centre of the table because I was like, well, I don't know where it's all coming down. If I move it all there, then I can just split off to wherever I need to go. I went turn 2 priority. The objective came down bang in the middle of the table with 3 Mega-Gargants and 3 Man Crushers. And he's like, so how many wounds is that? And I was like, it's 90 wounds. He's like, right, okay, so I'm not getting that. I was like, no. So it kind of became, he spent 3 turns literally in his little bunker at the back of the table. Both of our objectives came down on the right hand side, my right hand side. The thing that was stopping me though, so he was doing the spending the Aether Quartz or whatever it is, the Ether Quartz, and then using the Cathalar to bounce the bravery onto one of the Mega-Gargants.
Right.
So my Mega-Gargant was -1, -2 bravery. Then he was doing Voice of the Mountains, which makes the whole army -2 bravery. And then he was doing the Cathalar spell and the it's one of the spells, I can't remember what one it is, from the Lumineth, whereabouts you have to roll 2d6 and roll below your bravery. Of whenever you want to move, charge, fight, shoot. So he's basically locking down 2 units every turn.
Wow.
Which is a massive pain when you've only got 6 models.
Yeah. You've got 4 units and yeah.
Yeah. So it was a pain. I got lucky on a couple of attempts when I think he picked the wrong units to put it on, and then I basically just switched them with other units and they went and smashed. So it wasn't really much of a game for him, unfortunately, because it was like the Gargants just sat on objectives with, even if they were shut down, it's still 20 models worth of models with one of them sat there locked down. I had one Mega-Gargant that was left on like 3 wounds, and I literally just ran him, spent a command point of run him all the way onto my home objective in the far corner, because I was like, well, you're outside of range of sentinels, you can't like get him, he's just going to sit there. And I just held 2 objectives for the whole game. And then turn 4, techless, he went, right, I may as well just see whether I can kill something and get some kill points. Techless charged into a Mega-Gargant and the Man Crushers that both had these spells on and minus like 2 bravery. The Mega-Gargant failed. The Man Crushers rolled a double 1 for their bravery, and then took off a Techless in a turn of combat. So that was nice.
Wow.
Oh no, sorry, I took 14 out of the 16 wounds off, and then I rolled a 3 for the next bravery because I won the next turn 5 priority. And then did the last remaining damage. I was hoping the Gargants have a headbutt, mighty headbutt that's like 4 damage.
Right.
I was hoping that I could headbutt a Techless into oblivion, but he failed to hit.
Yeah, it would have been much more.
Exactly, yeah. So I just had to chuck like 10 attacks with his club into him. So no, it was a bit of a mismatch. I mean, with the traits that I'd taken anyway, I was already +2 to hit against all of his normal units because they had a wizard keyword and command models.
So did the shooting not do enough then? Did it just not make enough of an impact?
No, so the shooting with the Mega-Gargants, I seem to be like with the Gatebreakers, they get an attack which is 3s to hit, 2s to wound, it's -3 rend 4 damage. So you think that's a nice thing. They chuck a couple of rocks, snipe a couple of characters. Yeah. The amount of 1s I rolled for wounds all day was crazy. I could make the 3+ to hit. Sometimes it was like 2+ to hit. It was amazing. Couldn't roll that 2 to wound. So that was a bit frustrating because that was my thing. I was like, right, if I get rid of the Cathalar, then I can't bounce off. They can't stop them all battle shock, and also they can't bounce the battle shock bravery onto the Gargants again. I just couldn't do the damage. And like I said, he just kept rolling as a protection of Techless 5-up mortal wound save, like nobody's business. I think there was one turn I hit both rocks at a Cathalar and did 2 wounds. It's just like, what is happening here?
And I mean, his shooting then he just couldn't focus it enough to take anything down?
No. So that was kind of the other thing. I focused a lot of shooting the first turn into those Sentinels, where I didn't do enough to kill the units fully to start off with, but it was enough to make them ineffective. It was like leaving 3 models.
Right.
And I was kind of trying to focus on one unit at a time, but I was like, well, if I can whittle down a few, then he can only kind of auto pass 1 battle shock, and then it forces him to use command points on the battle shock rather than anything else that he's got planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, by I think it was turn 4, he had like 1 Sentinel left, and that was it. Like out of the Sentinels itself. But yeah, I got a major win. I got 2 of the objectives, 2 auxiliary objectives.
Okay.
And I think it was about 1,200 kill points, and he got 0 kill points. So it was a good start to the day.
The majority of yours was just Techless then.
Oh yeah, 660 points of it was Techless.
Yeah.
It was that was the big thing. It was like if I didn't get him, then I would have been getting probably half the points. But no, it was a good game. It was a good game to start off with. It was nice seeing Lumineth on the board, but I think Lumineth are better with the newer units. Some of the newer units. I think, especially when you see that, and it's like that's 2,000 points, and it's just lots of small little units and Techless.
Doesn't sound a lot, does it?
No.
As soon as you put Techless in, you're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of I kept an Uminara on whether they charged 2 units of 10 Wardens, because I knew like they were better on the charge.
Yeah.
But that was with 3 man crushers. It was when I got the turn 2 priority. And I was like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? Because they both had like power Hayushon. And looking back, and knowing how well man crushers do now, it would have been a no-brainer to just charge them in and absolutely wipe them off the face. I just didn't know kind of how much damage they could do until I properly got them into combat, like in other games.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that's what they do. So yeah, it's learning bits like that. Like I said, I'm still kind of getting to grips with the army and kind of what the potentials are. And you kind of hear about how strong Lumineth are as well. You're kind of always a little bit wary when you've not played them properly to kind of know what to expect. So
yeah,
no, it was a good start to the day. It was a nice win.
Perfect.
I should probably say, we didn't kind of mention it at the start. Justin decided that he wanted to do chess clocks for the event.
Ah, yes.
I know why he did it. He has a lot of issues with his 40k tournaments where people are literally playing past the time limits, etc. So he introduced it into that. I was trying to argue with him before the event that you don't need them. Like I can't think of a single game of AoS like that. Its whereabouts it's gone way past the time. Like normally games are over.
They are. I mean, because I was down Battle Bunker probably the week before the event, and I was talking to him about chess clocks as well, and it was an interesting chat because I didn't see the need for them. But then looking back, I can think of a fair few games, not that I've been involved in, that others have been involved in, that kind of then come to a point of that have overrun. And then you've got that argument as to how do you work out who's won and who's not. I'm not convinced chess clocks stop that.
No, so he made the game 3 hours long. So
which should be more than enough time for anybody.
Yeah. You're already adding an hour and a half onto the event. Like normal 2.5 hour games. You've got 3 games in a day. Suddenly you've almost got another game's worth of gameplay. So both players had an hour and a half left. Like hour and a half to do their turns. And his ruling was that you literally play your turn and your clock's ticking down. If you run out of time, then like that's it. Your opponent can still spend the rest of his time playing till turn 5, even if you're on turn 3. You just can't do anything. Which we were like, that kind of doesn't really work because you've got opponents that might not know the rules. Like Phil of mine, he kept having to check through his book to work out what was like this special rule and what you could do this when it's like combat, which I didn't mind. I was like, mate, don't worry about the chess clock. Like I've got 6 models, crack on, like take as much time as you want. But that was still eating into my time, if that makes sense. And they're rolling dice in your turn, like for attacks, and it's your turn that's going down. So if you've got something like a Mega-Gargant that's got one model that's doing these attacks, that's it, and then you're going into 30 guys who are doing 90 attacks, then you're losing time for that, which I didn't really understand as well. So I wasn't 100% sold on the chess clocks. It was a kind of mandatory thing that you had to use them. So I kind of took a screenshot for every game of how much time I had left. So I finished game 1 with 52 minutes of my turn left.
Fair enough. And did the chess clock start? Wait, when do they actually start then? Because obviously the round starts and you haven't deployed anything.
Yeah, he said they were meant to start at the start of deployment, but we just went, look, let's just deploy and then start like whoever's turn it is then.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we had like 5 drops. What was it? He had 5 drops, and I had 4 drops. So I mean, we were deployed like kind of snap of fingers. So I know some of them like they were starting literally at the start of deployment, and I didn't really understand it. I was like, let's just crack on.
Yeah. And as far as you're aware, did anybody actually get to this? Was there any scenarios where people had run out of their allotted hour and a half?
Not that I'm aware of. I saw a couple of games where it was getting quite down near to the wire.
Yeah.
I know there was one game where Simon, who was on the podcast a few episodes ago, he was playing Hannah, who had Soul Blight, and he had Nurgle, so it's obviously two quite not unkillable armies, but two armies
resilient.
Resilient, and they've got saves, and like they can bring models back, etc. And I think Hannah was a little bit worried that she was going to run out of time on her clock, and Simon just went, "Just take some of mine. I don't care." Like, you're both playing games. Like, some armies do take longer than others, and like I didn't mind. I said that to Phil. I was like, "I know you've got all your spells to cast. Just crack on." Like.
And I think, as much as anything, it's there to protect you against people that are clearly looking to slow play for an advantage.
Don't get me wrong. If I played someone who was properly slow playing him,
like,
you could tell that they were wasting time, then I'd be implementing that clock straight away and going, well.
But as you say, though,
it's in place.
Because the clock runs for your entire turn, if they are deliberately trying to sabotage, shall we say, the game, then they've got that opportunity to do it in your turn, which, as you say, kind of is a bit odd.
I know what you mean. I think, I mean, I might be in the minority, but if that was happening, I would literally click over the clock and went, look, if you want to waste time, waste it in your own time. But I don't think that, like, there was anyone really there that was like that at all.
You'd hope not, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a weird thing to have, but it was just, I mean, a few of us kind of went in going, we'll just say we're not going to use them. But then, like I said, Justin was kind of saying they were mandatory, and that was it. So we were like, oh, okay, we'll have to use it. So I kind of made it a bit of a point that I'd take the screenshot of how much time I had each game. So, game 2, I played Anthony from the club, who had his beautiful Idnef army.
I was going to say, before you get to that, I assume at lunchtime you did Best Painted?
We did Best Painted, actually, yes, and I was very fortunate to get a painting nomination.
Having done it all in a week?
Yes, I know. No, it was kind of a highlight for me to get a painting nomination. I do love the Gargants as well. Joking aside, I have kind of put a lot of time in them. I know that's a bit weird to say when you say I've painted them in a week, but kind of some of the kind of effects and the highlights I've done, I did really enjoy painting them.
Yeah.
But there were some stunning armies. I mean, the quality was amazing to see. I think at the end, I think Justin chose 15 armies. I think it was. It was meant to be 10.
Yeah. I was going to say, I remember seeing a post by him saying that he picked a lot more than he originally intended to.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think it was like well deserved. And he probably could have chose 20, like, or 25. There were so many good looking armies out there.
That's good to hear. People have obviously invested their time in lockdown well.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So it was nice actually kind of viewing all the armies, seeing what there was, and doing some voting. But yeah, I played Anthony's really, really nice looking Idnef, who he had, I'm trying to think what his list was, Voltornus, the Eidolon of the, I'm going to get this wrong, Eidolon of the Sea, I'm going to say it is.
Fair enough.
And probably get it wrong.
One of them.
It's the fighty one. I knew I'd get it wrong. Eidolon of the Storm, that's the one. Then he had the Achillean Corps Battalion, so he had a unit of 6 Morsar Eel, 2 units of 3 Ishlan Eels, a unit of 3 Sharks, and a Leviathan. So it was a very kind of lots of fit, big creatures that hit hard, but some very fast and decent battle line as well. And we were playing better part of Valor, where only battle line units can score.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you only had 1 unit that could score to his, what, 4 units?
He had 3 units.
3 units.
He had a unit of 6 Morsar, and the 2 units of Ishlan.
Right.
So we were kind of joking at lunch about what the next mission could be, and then someone went, "Oh, what should be better part of Valor where only battle line can score?" And then we literally walked inside and was like, "Right, it's better part of Valor." We were like, "Oh, what?" So I should probably put... No, I'll say it at the end. So, I already knew I was kind of up against it in this game, because I had one unit of 3 man crushers, and there's 6 objectives. And he had those eels. So, I basically had to deploy my 3 man crushers on the corner objective, bottom corner objective. I put 1 gatebreaker right in front of him to kind of semi-protect him.
Yeah.
A Kraken Eater on the middle objective, because I was like, well, I might be able to kick it across, and then I've got 2 objectives. And then I put another gatebreaker next to the Kraken Eater to just go and try and get rid of some of the eels before it was too late.
Yeah.
He outdropped me and he took turn 1. So basically, opposite my man crushers and gatebreaker, he put the unit of 6 Morsar, Volturnus, the Leviathan, the Eidolon, and 3 Sharks. So basically most of his army. And then he had the 2 units of Ishlan on the other 2 objectives. So it was very much he needs to just go and get rid of that battle line. And I was ready to concede before the even game started, because I was like, this is completely impossible. I'm playing Ideneth, who are fast and hit hard. And I've got 1 unit of battle line on this. So he took first turn. I was like, right, okay, here we go. And he kind of only moved forwards a little bit. I don't know why. I kind of said this afterwards.
Probably can't. He shouldn't have taken first turn, I don't think. But he probably can't get there, can he? Turn 1.
No, I mean, Sharks are movement what? Movement 14? Movement.
Yeah.
And you deploy 9 inches away from enemy territory.
So it's 18 inches. Maybe.
Yeah, the movement 14. So
it'll be 4 inches away from your territory, but then the objective's going to be a chunk of the way back. So maybe he does get there, but it feels like, because I bet you wished he'd had the ability to deploy on the edge, at least 1 unit, because then that would have really helped.
Yeah,
because you wouldn't have been able to screen that at all. So what did he do? Just go into the middle and...
Well, he kind of edged forwards a little bit, but that was about it. And then he put in some shots into the man crushers, but he did 3 wounds, and that was about it. But I deployed my gatebreaker on that 15-inch line of mine, because I was like, right, I need as much movement as I can. And then start the hero phase. The Kraken Eater rolled a 2d6 for the objective, and then just absolutely punted it 10 inches straight to the man crushers. Which I was like, great, okay, that's a good start.
Yep.
So the man crushers kind of strung out, so one of them was holding one of them was holding the corner one, and one was in the middle keeping coherency. And then I just basically pushed 3 Mega-Gargants forward, so I was like, well, I need to just go and try and smash face if I can. I basically made a 10-inch charge with a Kraken Eater into his Eidolon, who had the Cloud of Midnight.
Right.
The Gatebreaker in the middle went for the middle Ishlan guard, and kind of they were still too far away in my turn, but I think I needed a 12-inch charge, I think it was, and just I didn't get anywhere near it. Then the Gatebreaker on the right-hand side moved forwards and then rolled a 10-inch charge as well. Straight into everything. He'd left this little pocket in the middle whereabouts I could just... Basically, I knew it was going to be surrounding everyone, and I kind of thought, well, you know what, even if he dies in a minute, if I can get in and attack his Morsar, then it gets rid of one of his battle line units straight away.
Yeah.
And as kind of expected, he popped the Cloud of Midnight, so I couldn't attack with the Kraken Eater. But yeah, the Gatebreaker went in and killed 5 eels, Morsar, and left 1 alive on 2 wounds. And then he took, I think it was about 20 wounds back. Or actually no, at the start of the combat I kind of hinted to him, I was like, do you want to do anything at the start of the combat? Because we talked about his, what's it called, the
electric shock.
Yeah, the Voltric Blast or whatever it is, at the start of the game. And I was like, remind me what it is, and he was like, yeah, it's 3 ups to do mortal wounds, 6 as D3. I was like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. So then when I made the charge, I said to him, "Do you want to like do anything at the start of the combat phase to kind of hit?" And he went, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "No, I don't want to do anything at this combat phase." I was like, "Okay, fine." And then absolutely obliterated his Morsar. And I kind of said to him at the end, and then like I said, he left the Gatebreaker. That's what it was. He left it on 1 wound between the Leviathan, the 3 sharks, and the 1 remaining Morsariel. He left it on 1 wound.
Wow. So had he done that electric shock, all he had to do was 1 mortal wound, and it would have been gone.
He would have taken it off. And that's what I kind of said to him in turn 2. I was like, "Why didn't you do your electric shocks?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't even think about doing anything like that." I was like, "I did hint." Because I kind of said start of the combat phase.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to tell you straight away to blast him with electric shocks.
Yeah.
But we were playing in the Realm of Beasts. So, yeah, we were using Realm rules this event as well. Didn't really come into play that much, bar this time now. So the Realm of Beasts command ability is you spend a command point at the start of the hero phase and you're treated as suffering 0 wounds for the whole entire turn. So that Gatebreaker on 1 wound was now treated as if he had 0 wounds for attacks and everything. And I just splattered. I won turn 2 priority, splattered that Morsar. Then the Gatebreaker went into the Middle Ishland, splattered that.
Did he do his electric shock that time then?
No, because I shot it off. I threw a rocket at, because he only had 2 wounds. I was like, right, if I can chuck a rocket at it, because it's -3 rend 4 damage,
right,
gets rid of him. So yeah, I shot him off, and then I fought the Alapexes, the sharks, because I was like, these are the ones that could potentially go and probably one-shot the Man Crushers if they roll pretty hot.
Yeah.
And just one-shotted them, completely annihilated them. The Kraken Eater did a little bit of damage to the Eidolon, but yeah, the other Gatebreaker wiped out the Middle Ishland. So at that point, he literally had Voltanus, Leviathan, the Eidolon, and 1 unit of Free Ishland at the start of turn 2.
Yeah.
Which we were like, what is happening? Like, we just didn't really know. And Swidenef on turn 2, they can run and charge, can't they?
Yep.
Yeah. So the Eidolon, Voltanus, and the Leviathan all ran to try and charge the Man Crushers on my objective. Because obviously all of my Mega-Gargants were up at the top. Voltanus failed, which was kind of good. He kind of just stuck there in the middle. The Leviathan and the Man Crushers... the Leviathan and the Eidolon charged in. Eidolon killed 1 of the Man Crushers, but left the other 2. They turned around and killed the Leviathan. Just absolutely splattered him. I mean, he had been a bit damaged from the Gatebreaker in the first couple of rounds of combat, but yeah, they just turned around and absolutely
brutal
splattered him. The Eidolon, though, is the most survivable thing now with that 5-up after... 5-up after save seems to be the bane of my life at the minute. Like, it didn't matter how much damage I was doing to the Eidolon, it was just saving it all. I was like, right, okay. But yeah, because the Eidolon had done the damage, and then the Man Crushers went in and took off the Leviathan. The problem was I obviously had to take one of the Man Crushers off of the objective, like one of the objectives, because I'd strung them out. But at that point, when the Leviathan died, then I won turn 3 priority, and the Kraken Eater went in and killed the Voltanus. I did some damage to the Eidolon, but not a lot. But at that point, we just called it, because he was like, yeah, you're just going to basically... No, I did kill the Eidolon in that turn of combat, because the 2 Man Crushers got in and just did 20 attacks and the 2 headbutts and the kicks. So at that point, he literally had 3 Ishland Guard holding one of his objectives. But he's like, and he burnt it, because he's like, right, I need to try and get somewhere else, because I had a Gatebreaker like 11 inches away. So he burnt that, and he was like, right, even if I go down there and hold it, you're still going to outscore me, and I've got to stay on this objective, so that Gatebreaker's going to get anyway. So we called it at turn 3. So I beat Idenef in turn 3. Almost tabled him, which is absolutely crazy. And I had... he had 1 hour and 17 minutes on the clock, and I had 47 minutes.
Wow.
And we just kind of both were a little bit shell shocked, if you know what I mean. Like we were just like,
Didn't expect that to happen at all.
we were like, what's just happened? So I went into the game fully expecting to lose. I was like, how am I going to win this? I've got one battle line unit.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell I can win this game. And then suddenly I just turn one charge and then got a double turn and just almost tabled him. I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't until after the event I realised that for missions like this, Mega-Gargants ignore the rules and the Sons of Behemoth ignore the rules and any of the Gargants can hold objectives.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I saw that in the chat when you put that in. And I was thinking about that as you described the game. It's almost better that you didn't know that.
Yeah, I would have played it completely different because I would have been a lot more cagey. I would have put Mega-Gargants on my home objectives and then...
Exactly, and then you could easily have then got picked off by the Ideneth.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Who would have just smashed like one piecemeal. So, yeah, it's probably one of those rules that you're glad you forgot as opposed to...
100%, yeah. But, yeah, we were like just both completely shell-shocked. We had, I think it was 2 hours left until the next round.
That's the problem with the 3-hour rounds is when you get those quick games.
We were like, right, should we go to Tesco's is just around the corner from Battlebug. Yeah. We were like, let's go get some ice creams. So we went and got some ice creams, and then as we were leaving, I was joking. I was like, I could probably go home, go see my son for an hour and play with him, and then drive back. So I'm not going to because that's a massive waste of petrol. But it was kind of it was at the ridiculous stage of just like what has just happened. But it was I want to say a fun game. It was a fun game. Like Anthony's a mint person to play anyway.
Yeah.
I think he enjoyed it as well, but I think we were both just like completely rattled about what happened. It was just one of those crazy games for about to like.
Do you think it was due to dice spikes, or do you think it was just he just played it wrong?
So personally, I think it was two things. I think it was three things. One, the Kraken Eater kick in the middle objective 10 inches was huge because it meant I held two objectives, and it kind of gave me that feeling of, I'm kind of like, I'm in an okay position here. I've got two and he's got three.
It didn't have to panic as such.
Making two 10-inch charges turn one is massive. And yeah, I don't think I could have done that again.
Yeah.
I think for Anthony though, the two things he did wrong. One is obviously the electric blast from the eels.
Yeah.
But the other thing was he could have easily screened his eels with the alpexes. So he could have literally put the Morsar on the very back bit of the objective, holding it, because I think it's the 3-inch objectives for this one. Yeah, it's the 3-inch range objectives, so it's not a big objective size. But you could have put them literally 6 of them on the millimeter kind of bit of the 3-inch at the back.
Yeah.
And then had those alopexes across the middle of it. So it's even if you want to come towards me, you still got to fight them.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably something he could do better next time.
Yeah, because I would have been tempted to do that, give you first turn, and then, because he can sit on 3 objectives, whereas you at most you can sit on 2.
Yeah.
So something's got to come forward, and then you just pick it off as it comes forward.
Yeah,
or
definitely.
If everything comes forward, then you say turn 2 is run and charge. You kind of just you throw your 3 big guys forward. You kind of just bypass the 3 big guys and go for the back.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my worry as well, that at some point he was just going to ignore it's kind of what he did in turn 3 or whenever it was, when it was retreat, charge, or run and charge, whichever one it is.
2's run and charge, 3 is...
3's fight first. So 2 must have been run and charge. Because that
Unless he flipped the tides.
No, it was... So, yeah, the Leviathan was obviously freed up when the Gatebreaker died.
Yeah.
The Eidolon, I think the Storm one can retreat and charge, I think it is.
I've never actually used the Eidolon.
Eidolon of the Storm. I'm just having a quick look now. This model can retreat and still charge later in the same turn.
Fair enough.
So yeah, obviously he could retreat and charge, and then, I mean, he was already middle of the table, so he's moving 12, and then he can just straight get in. So yeah, he did that and kind of left my 2 remaining Mega-Gargants on his side of the table. And then, yeah, I've got like 3 man crushes against those, and I was like, uh-oh. And that was what I was worried about, but it was like, well, I've kind of got to. I need to go and get his battle line, otherwise I can't win this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those weird games. I mean, I don't like that mission anyway, and a few people were kind of saying, like, they hate playing that mission because it's very much only battle line can score, and that's a lot of people's kind of core of their army, and it's just sat there on objectives. It's kind of a non-game almost.
Yeah, it does become a bit of a funny one. I suppose it's there to stop people from going too light on battle line. You know, when people talk about battle line tax, etc., you kind of like they just put like 3 units of 10 skinks, and they say, right, that's my battle line done, and then I'm just going to go heavy stuff. You've always got to remember that battle plan can come up, which kind of keeps you honest as such. But yeah, at the same time, like you say, if you've got most, like, for the Ideneth there, like, had I been running my Ideneth and all my eels, like that's what I go out to do damage with. I don't want them sat on objectives.
Yeah, but you run the multiple small eels anyway, or multiple small units of eels anyway, and they're all battle lines, so they can literally just swamp the objectives and crack on. But yeah, so it was one of those weird ones. But yeah, I was kind of very surprised I did get a win. A few people were like, how did you win that? I was like, I don't know. So I don't think I could do it again if I tried. But yeah, it seemed to be quite a few people shocked that they were like, wait a minute, you won? I was like, don't ask me. Like, it just happened. So yeah, I kind of got another major win, which was excellent.
Done.
And then game 3, we were playing Places of Arcane Power. So this is where objectives can only be held by heroes. So kind of the complete opposite of the last game.
Yep.
Obviously, I've got 3 Mega-Gargants, which are very nice objective holders. And again, knowing in foresight, my man crushers can hold objectives as well in this game. So it's good to know for the future, but obviously AoS 3 is coming with completely new battle plans, so who knows whether that's going to be relevant for the future games. But it's nice to know.
Where is that? Is that rule in the Sons of Behemoth?
Yes, so it's in the Sons of Behemoth battle tone about controlling objectives. But then it's actually clarified in the errata, or the designer's commentary, I think it's called. Right. Saying that, yeah, you kind of ignore, and it kind of puts 3 Places of Arcane Power as the example, saying man crushers can score that one. So it's my fault for not reading it properly, but like you said, it's kind of, if I'd known that, I think I would have probably played it completely different. I just read that bit of the battle tome and just read it as Mega-Gargants are worth 20 and man crushers are worth 10, and I think I probably just stopped reading it at that point. Because,
like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It just goes.
I was like, oh, it's the same as a Beast Claw, that's fine, and then just cracked on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was playing Sam Pace, who is also one of the other Newcastle Warlord members, and he was running Beast Claw. So he was running a list very similar to the list I took, which is the Yulbad 6 to hit do mortal wounds, and he had 2 Frostlords, a Huskard, 3 units of 2 Mournfang, and a unit of Stonehorn Beast Riders. So a little bit different because I always ran a unit of 4 Mournfang and a unit of 2, but he had the 3 units of 2, and he had the, I'm trying to think what it's called. It's the Afro something tokens. It basically, once per game, you can activate it in the hero phase and you reroll all hits, wounds, and saves until the next hero phase.
Okay.
So I had a practice game with him 2-3 weeks ago when I was using my Iron Jaws. and that artifact went off, and I couldn't kill one Frostlord with 10 brutes in 3 turns of combat because he was just making all of his saves re-rolling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of knew it was a big thing, but I kind of knew if I could get onto the objectives like with mine first, then I should be okay because it's 35 wounds. It's, as I kind of talked at the start of the game, I'm a better version of Stonehorns.
Yeah.
So he outdropped me and he gave me first turn because he said he'd rather try and play for a double.
Yep.
With them, which is it's kind of right, but we kind of talked about it after the game, and I said I would have probably taken first turn if I was you and screened with all of your Mournfang and then put the Frostlords behind them. Because all that I did was I just ran 3 3 Mega-Gargants onto all 3 objectives, but literally moved them to millimeters right at the very back, so like the lip was touching, so they were scoring. So they were kind of like as far back as possible. So even if he moved forwards turn 1, for the 2 far objectives especially, he just was nowhere near in range.
Right.
And he turn 1 he went for the middle objective with his main Frostlord, but he didn't use his artifact at all. He was like, I'm going to save it for like a bit later. So he charged in with because I had the 3 man crushers and a gatebreaker in the middle holding.
Right.
And his Frostlord, his normal Stonehorn, and 2 units of 2 Mournfang all charged in. So the 2 Stonehorns went straight into the gatebreaker. The Mournfang went into the man crushers. He did lots of mortal wounds on the charge.
Nice.
Which is always a nice thing when you're Stonehorns.
Yep.
Then he activated his Frostlord, and he did 32 wounds to the Mega-Gargant. Like he'd left him on with 32 wounds suffered after the mortal wounds from the charge and everything else. But yeah, it was still like oh god, okay. I was like, this is going a bit bad. Like I was thinking, 35 wounds, I should survive at least a couple of turns, and I might be able to like at least kind of do some damage as well. So I had to activate the gatebreaker, otherwise he was going to activate his second Stonehorn and just take him off.
Yeah.
Targeted the Frostlord, left the Frostlord on 2 wounds, which I was like, oh, okay. No, sorry, left him on 4 wounds. Then he activated the Mournfang next to fight my Man Crushers because he knew that the Stonehorn could just go into the gatebreaker and kill him.
Yeah.
He did a couple of wounds to the Man Crushers, but the Man Crushers have 3-inch reach for the clubs, and the clubs I did 30 attacks into his Frostlord.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had enough reach to get all 3 into the Frostlord, and I was like 30 attacks, get in. I'm hitting on 2s, I'm wounding on 3s. I did 16 wounds, and he did his saves, and he did his after saves, and I did 2 damage.
Oh dear.
Yeah, left him on 2 wounds. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be one of these games again. I told you, 5 up after saves are the bane of my life at this event. So at that point I was thinking, oh god, this is not the best start. His Stonehorn then killed the Mega-Gargant.
Yep.
Then we had to roll off to see where he fell. I won the roll off. I rolled 3 mortal wounds against the Frostlord. He saved one of them. I did the 2 remaining wounds and flattened the Frostlord and killed him. So we were like, oh, okay.
That's an interesting trade.
Yeah, very thematic. Yep. Which I didn't mind, to be honest. To get rid of one of the Frostlords was a kind of big thing in turn 1. Okay, I've lost a Mega-Gargant at the cost of it, but it's one of his proper fighty guys.
Yeah.
His Huskard can hit hard, like the Stonehorn can, but the guy on top can't. And that's the thing, like the Frostlord on top has got the 4 attacks where it's freeze, -1 rend, 3 damage each. And from Mega-Gargant, especially that one, my general who didn't have ignore rend 1, that 4-up save goes to a 5-up, so he was getting through like 12 damage at a time.
Yeah.
With his attacks. Really? So that's where like all of that kind of chunk of damage goes through and does a lot of hurt. but I got turn 2 priority, so he'd pushed one of his Frost Lords to the right-hand side where my Gatebreaker was. Couldn't get in range to charge, but he was like, right, I'm just going to have to play for a double turn. I won the second turn priority, and then moved forward to my Gatebreaker, so I was still on the objective, but I could charge into his Frost Lord, and then just took it off in one shot. No. It's like, yeah, that's what a fully healed, full health like Gatebreaker can do. And they get 10 attacks for the flails, which is 3s and 3s -3 when 3 damage. Like when you're fighting a hero, especially because you get +1 to hit, so it's 3. It's normally 4s, but it goes to 3s. And yeah, I just one-shotted the Frost Lord, and at that point he had a Huskard, and that was it. And I had still 2 fully healed Mega-Gargants on 2 objectives. So we kind of knew what was going to happen here. We kind of played it out. He charged his Huskard into the Kraken Eater just to see whether he could do damage, but I think turn 4 I killed it. Like the Kraken Eater isn't the best in combat. He still gets a fair few attacks, but it's still not anywhere near as damaging as what the Gatebreakers can do. But yeah, once the 2 Frost Lords was dead, he literally had 1 hero, and I've got 2, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the end of that. It's then
a numbers game, isn't it then?
So I ended up getting another major victory, which is I went 3-0 all day, which was very nice.
Yes.
But I can say Mega-Gargants, Sons of Behemat are stupidly fun to push around the table. Like, you still have to use lots of thought because you only have a limited amount of models, but especially in objective-based games like Star Strike, it's great because you just move models on and go, there you go. I've got 50, 60, 70 worth of models. You've got to try and get rid of them. And like I said at the start, like the Mega-Gargants at 35 wounds, they're so survivable. It's just a really, really fun army to use. And I think in AoS 3 they'll be even better because they have all the monster monster feats and things like that. I do wonder how much,
if any, of a price increase they'll get for it.
We talked about that a little bit because obviously we've seen Alariel go up, we've seen Kragnos at the points he is, and it's a bit of a weird army because you've got to think, well, there's only a limited amount of models you can take, and with a points increase, it's basically if they've got to increase it so you
can't give them a small increase, can you?
No, that's the thing. You either increase it enough across the army that you've got to get rid of one of the Mega-Gargants. And then you can only run 2 Mega-Gargants and 3 Man Crushers, which at that point, I don't think they're as good. Personally, I think you need 3 of the heroes. Like, the army is very interchangeable. You can basically take 3 Man Crushers or a Mega-Gargant each time. So you can take, like at the current time, you could take 2 Mega-Gargants and 6 Man Crushers if you wanted to have something a bit more kind of rounded or something like that. But I think if they get anything significant, I think they just become a very limited army. Like you're literally going to 5 models, and then you're not really going to achieve anything. So
it's difficult to fill those gaps in. Like you can't really just take they get the spells or anything like that.
That's the thing. They get no alloys. They get nothing like that. Yeah. So you can't fill out anything that's missing. So it will be interesting to see when GHB comes out across all monsters, like what the points increases are and whether there are any. I mean, this book, like we said, came out in October, so you've got to think that perhaps it did have a little bit of.
I don't know. It definitely had AoS 3 in mind, but did they point it for AoS 3? I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I was 1950 points and I bought a command point. So you've got 50 points difference, but I think they would go up a lot more than 50 points if they do go up.
Yeah, because I mean, what's that? Maybe 10 points per unit goes 40 points up. Maybe you could get away with that.
I mean, they're 490 at the minute, so you're looking at 500, 510.
Just doesn't make. You see, you kind of, because of the way that it's structured, putting it up by 10 points doesn't make any difference. It only affects people that want to ally them in.
Yeah.
But then if you put them up by 25 points or 20 points, such that everything's over 500, then you lose an entire unit. and then all of a sudden you're like 400 points short.
Yeah.
It just seems complete
It's hard
madness,
to fill
doesn't
it back out. So it will be interesting to see where they say it. I mean, I'm fully expecting I'll use this army a bit more because it has been so much fun to push around.
Yep.
I have considered it for Lost and the Damned in July when we go, because I was like, well, it's going to be brand new edition, still learning the new rules. Could this be an army that you kind of just you don't really have to think
makes
much?
sense, doesn't it?
It does, but then part of me's thinking, well, am I going to be missing out on a few bits? Like, part of me's thinking, well, actually, if I only take Gargants, I'm kind of focusing down one route of the new rules, whereas you're missing out on a lot of other stuff.
True. I just, as you say, I think it'll make life a little bit easier for you to. You don't have quite so many rules that you need to be concerned with.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm sure when the Dominion.
You'll probably pick an army 2 weeks beforehand and just
It'll probably
change it then. But...
Cruel Boys or Stormcast, I fully expect. I'm not even afraid to say it. It'll probably be one of those two. But it all depends on what's out by then, because obviously we've still got. It comes out 3rd of July, but it's still missing all the other units. So
exactly, that's the problem. That is,
yeah.
I don't expect both of them to get releases straight away. I'm expecting them to focus on maybe Stormcast first and then the Cruel Boys second, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I might take the Idnef. I keep saying I need to take them, so that might be the army that I take for Lost and the Damned, and as long as I kind of just remember what it all does, then...
That's the thing though, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll see. It's still a couple of months.
At least you've got some monsters in that one. Like, I look at my Idoneth and I've got no monsters in it, so I'm kind of like...
Yeah, that was my thinking. I was like, well, I've got Leviathan, so I can use the monster rules, and I've got troops, and I've got eels, and I've got this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So, we'll work it out. It is still a long way away. GHB points might change everything, so
exactly.
You never know.
Opens up different avenues all over the shop.
Yeah, so ended up 3-0, which was excellent.
It's always good.
Standings. We had 3rd place was Nathan Watson. 2nd place was David Jack. So Nathan brought Legion of the First Prince, which is what me and Nathan chatted about 4 episodes ago. So he knows that army inside out, and it was great seeing it in person as well. It looked amazing. 2nd place was David Jack, and he brought Nighthaunt.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear, because table 1, game 3 was Nighthaunt, wasn't it?
Nighthaunt versus Caradron.
And your money would be on Caradron to win that, but
yeah, I think the Caradron army only had 1 hero. That was the problem. But yeah, you'd think that they could just shoot off the heroes. But I mean, David did bring like lots of troops as well to, which obviously gets Lookout Sir and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, I was very surprised that he did like that well with it.
Yeah, because I always found Nighthaunt heroes were quite squishy.
Yeah,
when I used to play them, they kind of like they went down quite easily.
That's what I thought as well. So it was one of those whereabouts was like, oh, okay, I didn't realise they were doing good. I mean, David's a good player anyway, so
yeah,
it just shows that no matter what army you use, if you're a good player, you can get good results out of it. So he did that, and I ended up coming 1st.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. Now it does come with a little bit of a I'm trying to think what the...
bit of a caveat. Not even a caveat, is it? It's kind of like an extra piece to be aware of.
Yeah, so in round 2, for some reason, Nathan's opponent only marked him at 75 points instead of the 95 points that he should have got. And Justin kind of posted it up after, I think it was on the Monday when he went through all the sheets again. And we're not entirely too sure why. It does look like that the painting scores, you had to kind of vote your opponent's painting each round, which was a little bit weird. But that was worth 20 points. It looks like that he wasn't ticked for that. Which was, like I say, it would be a shame if that was the reason, because Nathan's army looked awesome. It is a kind of concept army, but it's still
Still painted, isn't it? It's not exactly as if
Yeah.
it's clear what he's trying to do there.
Definitely. So yeah, if that was the reason, that is a bit of a shame. Justin did point out though that like because that was round 2 that happened, that the round 3 draw would have been different. And I think he probably would have been playing Caradron, because I think they were at the top. So you just don't really have a clue of what happens there. Like Caradron against Legion of the First Prince, I don't know. Like lots of shooty units against.
Yeah, but on that mission, it's probably the same outcome as with Nighthaunt, isn't it? It's, if he's only got one hero, then...
Yeah, I'm just looking at Graham, because it was Graham Percifer who was up there. He actually had 3 heroes.
Alright.
But he had, what was it, an Ironclad, 2 and 3 gun haulers and Thunderer, 20 Thunderers and Engine Riggers, so lots of shooting. So yeah, you just don't really know how that would go. But no, it was amazing to win. Like I said, it was very nice to win. I got best in destruction as well, which was nice.
Always nice. So what pushed you ahead of David Jack then? Because he was on table 1, wasn't he?
He was. So it was down to, as far as I can tell, strength of schedule from what I can work out.
So it wasn't down to the auxiliaries, because I thought that it might be.
No, so we both finished on 285 points.
Right.
6 auxiliary objectives. And what is it? It might have been kill points actually, because I had 4,650 kill points. So I had the second highest kill points there at the event. David Jack only had 1770.
Probably what gave you it then, because I was going to say strength of schedule doesn't really make that much sense.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, because like the event wasn't ran on TTO, tabletop organizer. TTTO, tabletop tournament organizer.
Too many T's.
So yeah, it's very hard to kind of work out what it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of done through Battle Bunker's own kind of score sheets, which obviously can also have human error in there. But no, I was, like I said, I was kind of over the moon to get first place, but to find out on the Monday that it was potentially not right was a little bit of like a bit of a downer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but like you say, because if that had been what had happened in round 3, then yes, but because it was round 2 and it moves everything, you probably wouldn't have then played, everything changes and you just don't know how it would have panned out.
Yeah, I would have been playing either, like I said, either David's Nighthorn or I think, I'm trying to think what was the other army behind me that Nathan played? Bone Reapers.
Yeah.
And that Bone Reaper list had Catacross as the hero and that was it. So yeah, like you said, you don't really know how the draw would have gone differently because of that. So it is a shame, but at the end of the day, I'll take a win at the end of AoS.
Still well-deserved win, yeah, absolutely. You win all 3 games, you get second highest number of kill points. So
yeah. So apart from the standings, we also had best painted, and that was won by Anthony Johnson, who I played in game 2, one of the warlords. He's got beautiful, like we said, beautiful looking Idoneth army, so it was well deserved. And as we kind of touched on, the quality of armies there were kind of exceptional. So
congratulations, Anth.
Yes. Definitely, yeah, congratulations, and yeah, looking forward to seeing it again in July when he's off at Lost and the Damned with us. So
yeah, hopefully he takes that up with him to that as well.
Definitely. So yeah, a nice way to see out AoS 2 and really fun pushing Gargants around. So it was a nice Saturday.
Absolutely, sounds great fun.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break there, and then we'll come back to talk about AoS 3. And we're back from the break. So there's a little extra thing that came out this week. AoS 3.
Yeah, just a little thing.
Just a little thing. So no, the on Monday the heavens opened of preview versions of Dominion. I say preview versions. There was lots of just unboxings.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Here's a box. Here's how to open it. Here's the sprues. Great. Okay.
Yeah, some of them are just a bit.
Yeah. I love the ones. I don't play AoS. Okay. Or
yeah, it's a bit baffling when you see the just like the Twitter posts or the videos that start with, I don't play AoS, but I'm going to go through this.
Yeah.
And you just think, okay.
But no, I mean, we put out a little tweet that we were a little bit disappointed we didn't get a preview copy, being a AoS podcast and having 2,000 to 3,000 listeners. It's kind of almost like the key demographic that you're going for. And it did kind of feel like that they were just giving them out to anyone that had a big following, which it makes sense in a way, but you also get videos, like I said, where people go, I don't play AoS, or there was one that properly got to me where they went, the rules for AoS 3? No, it's not changed at all really from AoS 2. And it's like, if you don't know that, don't say it.
Yeah, and that's the bit of the problem, isn't it? It's like kind of the communication out on it. And, we talked about this before we found out whether or not who did and who didn't get it as such. It's that age-old thing of, fine, we didn't get it, we're big boys, we'll get over it. But when you see, you say, all those things out there of people that perhaps aren't necessarily living and breathing it, getting them, you kind of look at it and think,
yeah, and there's
a bit more disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a few AoS podcasts out there that are doing amazing, content, that didn't get it, and it's like, well, like I said, you're doing a podcast specifically on that game, where
yes,
they're the ones that they're living, breathing, knowing the game. Kind of, it's a little bit disappointing, but like I said, I'm not bitter. I mean, we're still here recording the next day. It's not, I've gone, right, that's it, it's the end of the podcast.
No. No, and like, I think you said it on Twitter, we do this because we enjoy it. We're not doing this to try and get anything from anybody. We do this because we enjoy it, and if we only had 10 listeners, we'd be happy with that. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing it. It's not for those things, but
100%.
we are. It does mean, however, people can get a view of what's going on from a multiple different sources.
Definitely,
it's been interesting.
Yeah, so they had all of these previews, and then in the afternoon, Games Workshop actually released the core rules for everyone to download, which was very nice. So it was a nice 44-page PDF.
Yeah, and it was quite surprising. I really did not see that coming. Maybe, down a week beforehand or something like that. But
I fully expect the amount of blurry screenshots of part rules and because that's the thing, they've given them so many YouTubers who have literally done a
man that reads book,
flick through the book and that, and people have taken screenshots of somebody else's bad camera feed to then go, so what does this mean if you go this? It's like, well, wait until you get the full section. So I have a feeling GW, it was planned anyway. I mean, the rules have always been free for AoS.
Yep.
And it wouldn't surprise me if it was planned that this was coming out, and it probably would have come out maybe Saturday, or maybe on the 3rd of July, or maybe sometime in between pre-order and launch. But I think that they just brought it forward to go, you know what, let's just actually show everyone the rules, and then people aren't trying to second guess blurry screenshots, and everyone can read the rules.
I think it's a good thing as well. I think it's a good step in the right direction, because, like you say, it just takes out a lot of the rumours, ambiguity. I saw this. Oh, apparently this is this, and all of that. It's like, look, they're there. That it's out there. The one thing I would say is that's kind of, again, made me chuckle a bit is they're the core rules. We don't have the GHB, so a lot of people are jumping to conclusions, shall we say, on how these things interact with the GHB or the match play rules. So yeah, again, it's kind of like, yep, we've still got a tiny bit of the puzzle left to get. Let's not all jump to conclusions just yet.
100%.
And of course, we don't have the points yet. So yes, this might make a particular unit useless or might make a particular unit amazing. But again, let's see what that reflects in the points.
And that's the thing. Like, so the core rulebook has got a Champions pack, I think they call it, or Conquest of Generals match play pack.
Conquest of Generals, yeah.
But it's a very small. It's a bit like the version 2 rulebook. There was a match play bit in there that had a handful of battle plans in. But that's not the real match play stuff. Like, it's a intro to match play. This is how you can do it, where you use points. Like the core book, it's got obviously open play. You've got narrative, the Path to Glory, all the campaign bits in there. So very much looking forward to reading through all of that. The core rules obviously goes through the rules of how to play AoS. But yeah, the Conquest of Champions is a kind of small taster bit for match play. But like I said, the GHB is this is the General's Handbook for match play. Like, this is how to play match play. It's got 12 new scenarios. And actually, talking about it, because it's Tuesday that we're recording, today was the video where article where the GHB got previewed, and we may as well talk about that as well, because like we said, we didn't get a preview copy. We have read through the rules. Well, I have. I expect you're probably partway through them as well.
I'm partway through them. Yeah, I must admit, I struggle. So I suppose two things. One, in general, I struggle without having the full picture. I don't like looking at things in piecemeal because I just confuse myself. And also, you know, as mentioned previously, I'm doing Marvel, and we've got 2 tournaments coming up very soon. So that's kind of been my focus. And they nicely coincide with the release of AoS. So I can focus on that until release day, get those 2 tournaments out of the way, and then I can focus on AoS.
Yes.
So yeah, I've kind of flicked through them, and I've read most of the community articles and seen it being drip fed. But like I said, I prefer to be able to sit down with those rules, the GHB. I'm going to pick one of my books. I haven't decided which army I'm going to start with, and start to look at it in the whole. Because again, I don't know. Are we going to get any updated war scrolls? Are they going to be, you know, is it just going to be a load of erratas?
I think it'll be erratas. Remember in AoS 2, like, every battle tome always got loads of erratas and stuff. The only war scrolls that I can remember changing was the Thunderers. Got a war scroll in the GHB of version 2, I think it was. I mean, I'm going back a few years now. Mine. Blurred memories, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be many.
There hasn't been any rules that I've seen so far that have introduced any new keywords, and that to me would be the key point at which you would expect to see new war scrolls being updated, where it clearly says, you know, add this keyword, add that keyword. There might be some rules that get changed, but again, that'll just be an errata as opposed to full-on war scroll updates, I would have thought.
Yeah, it is very much, I think, I don't think they'll change war scrolls. I think any war scrolls they'll change will be in new battle tomes. The GHB does have new war scrolls for all of the current endless spells, which is nice. When I say endless spells, I mean just the generic endless spells, not the faction-specific ones.
Yeah, because I was always intrigued as to where we were going with those, because that obviously was a key component of AoS 2,
yes.
You know, introduced there. And then it felt like the generic ones, you saw them a lot less. There were a couple that maybe came up over and over again, but the majority of them you didn't tend to see that often. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping this gives them a bit of a revival and we get to see them back again.
Yes, it's. They previewed the Chronomatic Cogs.
Yeah, that's had quite a chunky update, hasn't it?
That's had a huge update. So you don't get +2 to move anymore. It's just +1 to charge. He says, trying to remember the article now. But it's like all
Is it
wizards
run and
with.
charge or just charge?
I think it's just charge, but I think it's all wizards within 6 can now cast an additional spell.
Yeah, the
Which is
slowing
the
down
biggest.
seemed to have got better,
Yeah,
and the speeding up time seems to have got worse.
yeah. Which it's fine. I never liked the cogs where it was like, yeah, +2 to move and charge. It was like, right, okay, super speed for everything then. But yeah, they seem to be updating all of the endless spells. It does look like, though, from what they previewed today in the GHB, is that the all of the scenarios are set in the realm of beasts, which is
Yeah, I thought that
pretty cool.
It was interesting to see matched play be tied into narrative.
Yes, yeah.
It kind of felt like they were saying, right, match play, but we're going to make it so there is a narrative behind the match play, which kind of feels like complete opposites. But I like that idea.
Yeah, and like even looking at what the battle plans are called, it sounds like it's in Gur. It's like Savage Gains and Survival of the Fittest and Apex Predators.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a cool thing, and it makes me wonder whether actually, like, you're going to get maybe 2 of these a year or something like that. I mean, this says Pitch Battles 2021, so we're 6 months now. Does that mean that maybe January time they do a new one that's based in somewhere else? I know that AoS 3 is meant to be more focused around Gur anyway.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Because I thought the same thing. I wasn't thinking every 6 months. I was thinking, like, do we get a different every General's Handbook? Is it going to be in a different realm? It does. It feels to me like they're really splitting, and this is ironic because it kind of goes against what I've just said. But really splitting from a rules perspective, the narrative side of it to the competitive side of it. And by that I mean, we had the realm features when it all first happened, and again that was AoS 2, wasn't it, where they introduced the different, and some of the it felt like they were written narratively but then forced into the match play, which then felt like the differences in there were there was too much, wasn't there? Yeah, some things just didn't affect the game, and maybe like you and your opponent completely forgot about it, but other things were fundamental, like all of a sudden you can't shoot more than 16 inches. Well,
yeah,
for certain armies that makes a massive difference.
Massive army like plans.
Yeah. So it feels good that they're splitting those more almost random elements of it out and keeping that along with the battalions, which again had a narrative feel but could easily be broken in the match play side of it. They're splitting that out of the match play world, and I suppose keeping it all in Gur or keeping it all in a specific realm helps you focus your match play rules, and so that you can control that and say, right, everybody for this GHB is going to play here, and these are the rules that can affect you. There's no randomness in it. This is it.
Yeah, 100%. And like this time, it kind of feels like, they've got a focus. Let's just go down that. And the GHB, it looks like that they've added 2 new core battalions. So core battalions are brand new anyway for AoS 3. So all battalions that you know of, change host, anything like that, just get in the sea. It's no longer being used.
Well, no. If you want to play narrative or open,
okay,
there.
yeah. If you want to play narrative or open play, you can do that. If we're talking about stuff like this, for us, we are in match play podcast mainly. So for match play, all current battalions are gone, and everyone has the core battalions. And there's a mix of core battalions that you can choose from, and you can take as many as you want in your list, as long as you can fill them out with the units that you want. And the core battalions, especially in the core rules themselves, they all have specific abilities that you can do. So you can do, one of them gives you an extra enhancement. So that's like an artifact or a command trait that you want to take. One of them makes you a 1-drop army, which is obviously a big desired thing.
Yeah, that is interesting because that kind of says that the other battalions don't relate to drops as such.
No. So it's battalions. No, so if you're a part of a battalion, so like these core battalions, if you want to drop the battalion, you have to drop it all at once. You can't drip feed it. So even
the smaller battalions still give you that opportunity to reduce your drops.
Actually, you've got me questioning that now, because no, if you're a battle regiment, which is one of the core battalions, that gives you 1 drop deployment.
Yeah.
The other ones, yeah, they're part of a core battalion, but they're not counted as a full drop.
Yeah.
They give you other abilities. You've got so yeah, we might as well quickly go through them because this is, like I said, we're not going to go into the rules massively because we're still getting through them, and there's many channels that have already done them. Check out Facehammer because they've done some good in-depth bits for it.
Yeah, they were very on the money on those, weren't they?
But you get there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different abilities depending on which of the core battalions you take. You've got Unified, which is a 1-drop battalion, and you only get that for the battle regiment. So that's one of your kind of like main ones that you can take. You've got one called Expert. So once per battle, 1 unit from the battalion can receive all-out attack or all-out defense command without the command being issued and without the command point being spent. So all-out attack is +1 to hit and all-out defense is +1 to save. So that's quite nice.
Yep.
With these, it does feel like if you're taking multiple of these core battalions, you need to work out some way to differentiate between the different units in each one. Because some of them you can take kind of the same type of units in each battalion, so you don't want to be mixing them up and giving the wrong abilities to the wrong one.
So can you, from what you can see, because I can't remember seeing this anywhere, can you have a unit in multiple battalions?
No, they've got to fill only 1 battalion.
Right.
So you've got different units. You've got Commander, which is a leader.
Yeah.
You've got a Sub-Commander, which is a leader with a wound characteristic of less than 10. So obviously, Commander, I mean, you could have a Necromancer if you wanted to, or you could have Nagash, for example. It's a leader. There you go.
Yep.
You can fit in. Sub-Commander, obviously, you can't have any of those big monster heroes, but your Necromancers, your Lord Relictors, anything like that could be into that. Troops is any unit that's not a leader, artillery, or behemoth. So anything battle line, well, it's not even battle line because I suppose some bits can be have a different keyword for that, but anything that doesn't have those keywords. So fill it up with Kurnoth Hunters if you want, for Sylvaneth, for example. Anything like that, fill it into that. They fill into those slots. You've got artillery, which obviously has the artillery keyword, and monster, which is a behemoth that's not a leader. So those are the different units that can fill different battalions. And you get, like we said, we've kind of done Unified Expert. You've got Magnificent, so you get to pick 1 extra enhancement. And enhancements, like I said, they are command traits, artifacts, spell lore, mount traits, anything like that. So you get to pick 1 extra thing from that list for choosing that specific battalion. You've got Slayers, so once per battle, 1 unit from the battalion can receive the all-out attack, which is again a +1 to hit, or unleash hell command without the command being issued without the command point being spent. So unleash hell is in the combat phase, charge phase.
Charge phase, yeah.
So when you charge a unit, you can choose a unit within 9. So it's not that unit that's being charged, unless it gets FAQ'd. But a unit within 9 can shoot at -1 to hit.
Yeah, and I can't see this being FAQ because I think the whole point is, because doesn't the unit have to be outside of 3 as well?
They have to be outside of 3 of enemy units. So
if it's the charged unit,
so you can have I'm thinking, an Ironclad and a unit of 10 Arcanaut that's screening the front of it.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to charge those 10 Arcanaut, you could do Unleash Hell on that Ironclad because it's within 9.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very strong for some shooting armies.
Yeah, and it's got me. I have actually dug out my dwarves the other day, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm back on that at the moment. I know they've got no monsters, or they're not going to have any of the fancy stuff, but
got Iron Drakes. That's all you need.
Yeah, exactly. Iron Drakes shooting up anything and everything.
Exactly. You've got Strategists, which is once per battle, when you receive a command points at the start of your hero phase, you receive 1 extra command point, which is really big because command points is everything in AoS 3. And then you've got Swift. So once per battle, 1 unit from this battalion can receive at the double or forward to victory command without the command point being spent and without the command being issued. So at the double is reroll charges, and forward to victory is the turning your run into a 6, and that has actually changed to you don't roll first, you literally spend your command point and turn it into a 6. So that again is it's a little change, but it's a big change. It's one that needed changing because you had no risk to it. It was literally you roll a dice, see what you get for a run, and go, oh, I'm going to turn it to a 6 instead.
Yeah, and I imagine that it's the ones like that are going to catch people up the most, isn't it? They're going to be the ones that you're going to get. You know, you talk about Lost and Damned. I can imagine that's going to come up quite a lot where people just do it, didn't notice that part of the change, and then you're like, oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
I say, oh,
exactly. So these core battalions, you can take as many as you want, as long as you can fill them out with enough units. They don't cost points as well, which is nice. And I think you'll see some very interesting lists. I think it's lots of different ways. However, you still have those restrictions from AoS 2 that you have to have a leader and you have to have 3 battle line.
And I must admit, that disappointed me slightly.
It did for me. I understand why it's in there because it stops just lots of really janky lists coming into play. But it's it is a shame because it does stop some also quirky lists.
It does, and you look at the 40k model. I thought they were going to go full hog 40k model where you don't have that limitation. You get around it by the whole battle line if realistically.
Yes.
You can still put out your army of 4 Terrorgeists or whatever it is. You can still get around these things with the battle line if. So I assume that concept will continue and armies will still be able to do things like that. But it kind of stops your more inventive kind of way of looking at it.
Yeah. But with the GHB, they've revealed that there's going to be 2 new core battalions in the GHB for match play.
Yes.
You've got Alpha Beast Pack, and these are kind of centered around the whole theme of Gur. So the Alpha Beast Pack is 3 monsters. You have to take 2 monsters, but you can take another one if you want to.
It's an optional third, isn't it?
Yeah. And this gets a ability called Scent Tracking. So after the armies have been set up, but before the first battle round begins, you make a normal move of up to D6 inches for each unit in this battalion. So I like that. It's a nice little kind of extra little bit of movement. If you know you're going first, you can give your monsters a little bit of D6 move.
Absolutely.
Probably roll your 1s, but get them out the way before the battle begins, and you'll be fine.
And the one that struck me about that was it's kind of a slight replacement for the Mass Squiggle launch because you used to get that as part of the battalion, which you no longer get. So
it's a nice little thing, but you're kind of limited to monsters for that, so you'd really only
still be my 2 Mangler Squigs.
Yeah, that is true.
That's all I want to. Yeah, I'm happy to push them 2 forward.
Really. Yeah. But you also have Hunters of the Heartlands, and this is 2 mandatory troops, and you can take another troop as well as an optional. And these have expert underdogs. So units from the battalion cannot be picked when your opponent carries out a monstrous rampage. So this actually stops some of the new bigger abilities, which is, as we kind of mentioned, the monstrous rampages is targeting the monsters, and monsters have been buffed kind of massively in this. And at the end of the charge phase, each player can carry out one monstrous rampage from the table below with each of their friendly monsters. So they've got 4 different abilities, and we kind of predicted what these might be. If you remember, when was it? 2 episodes ago? 3 episodes ago?
Yeah, we went through what we thought.
So a raw, I don't think we've really got them right, but
No, but we tried.
We tried. So a raw is you pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of the model and roll a dice. On a 3+, that unit cannot issue or receive commands in the following combat phase. So unit champions now can issue command abilities. So all-out attack or all-out defense, for example, +1 to hit, +1 to save.
Yep.
Your unit champions can actually give that out to your unit. So on a 3+, you could actually stop them doing that. If it's one that's holding an objective, for example, but no heroes are around, you can get your unit champion to give out an ability, give out your kind of buffs. But if you can stop that on a 3+, then it gives you a lot more chance to take them out.
Yeah, it's kind of shutting down that some of those abilities.
Definitely. You've got Stomp, which is you pick a unit within 3 inches that is not a monster. On a 2+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds, which I think we might have maybe guessed there was going to be some sort of like D3 mortal wound thing at the start of the combat phase or whatever it is. So we'll kind of claim that one.
It's not a massive swing, but sometimes those 1 or 2 mortal wounds can make a big difference, can't they?
It's like sometimes it's all that you need. And some of these, like if you think about it, some monsters they do impact it with mortal wounds anyway. And then at the end of the charge phase, you're then doing more mortal wounds. Like some of them could be doing 2d3 or a Mega-Gargants, for example, d6 mortal wounds on the charge and then d3 additional.
And your Stonehorns just add a little bit more.
Add an extra bit. It might be enough to just get rid of that screen that you've just done and then you can
in again.
Get across. You've got Titanic Duel, so you pick one enemy monster within 3. You add 1 to hit rolls made by this model that targets that monster until the end of the following combat phase. That is really cool because that just gives you an extra bit of what do you call it? Bonuses against monsters.
It helps in the mirror match, doesn't it? You've got stuff like that, and you kind of it helps out there. But it's interesting because both players can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says each player can carry out one monstrous rampage for each friendly monster. So both can do it. And then the last one is Smash to Rubble. So you pick one faction terrain feature or defensible terrain feature within 3 of the model. On a 3+, the terrain is demolished if it was defensible, and the scenery rules on the war scroll cannot be. The terrain feature is demolished if it was defensible, and the scenery rules on the war scroll cannot be used for the rest of the battle if it was faction terrain. So this is kind of what Mega-Gargants and Man Crushers have got at the minute in the Breaker Tribe. Situational, but can be quite good as well. Like big. I'm thinking Gits, you just do not want your Loon Shrine being smashed to pieces. Because then you lose all of your immune to Battle Shock.
Yeah. And there's quite a few that have got some key pieces there. Khorne have got.
Khorne the rerolled prayers.
Yeah. There's a few.
You've got I'm trying to think.
Beast Claw one. That's quite useful.
Beast Claw's healing. Slanesh for summoning. You've got the Nurgle trees for running charging.
Not even that gets interesting because you can get
points.
Multiple ones of those, can't you?
Yep. Ideneth, the boats, because they just get in the way.
No, I was going to say, the boats kind of get in, but it's not destroying the piece of terrain, is it? It's just taking the rules away.
The tree. Oh yeah, for faction terrain as opposed to
So it's kind of like the boats are still. Yeah. You still stick them in annoying places.
Still getting annoying places. They're not. If it was defensible, they get demolished.
Not getting what you don't do the mortal wounds. You don't get the 6-up save, which again, it's nice to have, but it is not
exactly used all the time.
Game changing, is it, for things like that? But yeah, there's a fair few that it'll make a bigger difference to than others.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, these are just like additional things as well. They're not exactly you don't have to pay for them. It's just you can do them with your monsters and at the end of the charge phase. So
yeah, and again, it depends what impact does that have on points for monsters.
Yes,
it'll be interesting to see. Like you say, some of the ones we've seen so far have gone up quite dramatically. I feel there's more to it than that because I think heroes are also being more important in this edition.
I think with Kragnos and Ilariel, like they are meant to be the gods anyway. So having them at 700 odd points with a bit more.
Because Nagash has seen an increase progressively, hasn't he?
Yeah,
and I've seen I think it's just rumours at the moment. I'm not sure it's official that Archeon's gone up to 900 plus.
That's rumours at the minute.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me again. He's kind of one of those god characters that. Yeah, it's not kind of obvious thing. But I mean, that core battalion is quite nice. If we suddenly shift to a monster meta, then taking a Hunters of the Heartlands with 3 units of troops, and like I said, those troops they don't have to be battle line. They can be kind of
anything you want.
Anything you want that it doesn't fall into the other kind of
basically, if it doesn't have a keyword and it's not battle line,
if it's not artillery behemoth or leader, then crack on. So not being able to target, being targeted can be quite a good thing for it, I think. So that's nice. The biggest change. Right, let's talk about the spell first, and then we'll talk about the biggest change for it. So the spell then for Gur that all wizards know. Metamorphosis. Yeah, I got it right the first time. Metamorphosis. It's cast on a 5 in a range of 12 inches. If it's successfully cast, you pick one friendly hero that is not a monster that's within range and visible to the caster. That hero gains the monster keyword until your next hero phase. So they can then do the monstrous rampages.
Yes, and I did see a tweet from a good friend, Mr. Ian Spink, who was more than happy with that because for his Bone Splitters, he's more than happy to see all these new monsters, especially if you want to make your lead character a monster as well. It'll be more than chuffed.
That though, but Mr. Spink has just finished painting up Kragnos.
I assume that goes into his. Well, does that go into his Bone Splitters?
I don't know.
Would Bone Splitters follow a monster?
I don't know. I expect that's where it's going, but I fully expect him to start charging it for getting it as his own model, but trying to kill it. But no, I really like this spell. I think you're going to see some funny uses for it. I think you'll see some bits where people are just going to do it for a laugh and turn their stupid little hero into a monster. But you'll also probably see some clever little things as well. For example, if you're in combat with like another hero that's got 1 wound left, turn yourself into a monster and do a stomp and do D3 mortal wounds or something like that, where you wouldn't think it was.
Yeah, and I suppose that Titanic duel will come in useful. You've got a hero that's quite fighty that's going up against a monster.
Yeah.
You give him the monster keyword, he can there do Titanic duel and he's getting the +1. So, there will be those bits and pieces. You want to shut down a unit from putting out commands.
Yeah. And
change your hero to a monster and you're away.
You don't know whether specific battle plans are going to have a bonus for having monsters on objectives. In the past, it's been behemoths, I think, has been like the word to use.
Yeah, and that's the bit that always gets me, is the difference between behemoths and monsters.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's you'd think it goes hand in hand, but there are occasionally behemoths that aren't monsters, which don't really make sense. But yeah, it might be that suddenly some of these battle plans, because we are in Gur, use as the keyword monster rather than battle rule behemoth, and then suddenly that becomes a massive spell for everyone to cast, because you might be getting extra points, or you might override a point or anything like that. You also, he says, trying to delay while he has a very, very quick look through the core rules again. If you... There you go. So each monster counts as 5 models for objectives. Now, if you've got the keyword monster.
So that, again, well, in 2 ways, yeah. It's really making monsters up to the level you expect them to be, and therefore, similarly, we're expecting price increases for a number of those. But yeah, that spell then, again, you've got your leader there. All of a sudden, he goes from counting as 1 to counting as 5.
Yeah,
could change the entire game.
An objective. So yeah, that's another thing. I know we're kind of jumping back and forth about a few bits here, but that's another thing with contesting objectives now. As we mentioned, monsters now count as 5 models for the purpose of contesting objectives, but models with wound characteristics of 5 or more that's not a monster count as 2 models. So that's an interesting change. 5 or more wounds is quite a lot.
There's not a lot of units that have that, but there are some, aren't there?
Well, I'm just having a quick look. Yeah, it doesn't help them. I was thinking, this makes a Troggoth army like semi-viable.
4, aren't they?
They've got 4 wounds.
Yeah.
Which is
Bulgors are 4 or 3.
Bulgors are 4 wounds as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because ogres, because this is where it's come from, is like normal for more tribes. Ogres are 4 wounds, and they count as 2 on objectives. And yet this has changed to 5. The only ones that I can think of are 5 Clenoth Hunters, and I can't actually think of... There's probably
Dragon
more.
Ogres?
I think they're 4 wounds as well.
I was going to say, I thought Simon seemed quite keen on Dragon Ogres, so when that came up...
Dragon Ogres have 5 wounds.
There you go. Dragon Ogre meta.
It's the age of the Dragon Ogre.
Heard it here first.
I'm trying to think of Storm Fiends. Storm Fiends, Clenoth Hunters, Dragon Ogres, Evocators and Draculines.
Yeah, some of your mounted troops, maybe.
Mornfang already count as 2 models because they're ogres.
Yep.
That's what I mean. There's
going to be some oddities, and there's going to be, as you say, Dragon Ogres is the perfect example here of units that previously, were overlooked are going to get it back. Things like, I suppose, something like Chaos Spawn or something like that. It's only a small change, and yes, they're 1-man units as such.
But it still counts as 2. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's still going to count.
I think this
heroes. Is it going to affect heroes then? Are heroes counted as 2 if they're more than 5?
Yeah, they probably would be because they count as 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the heroes, I mean, that's a kind of not given, but that's a kind of obvious reason. I still feel that having a wound characteristic of 4 or more opens up to a lot more different models.
Yeah, but then it opens up to eels.
Yeah, okay, scrap that. 5 or more is exactly the right amount. Yeah, well done,
I'm looking
GW.
across at my collection thinking, what would it affect, what would it not affect? You said 4 wounds, I'm like, I'm more than happy with that.
Maybe Beast of Chaos get a new book and Bulgors of 5 wounds.
You never know. Simon would be more than happy with Dragon Ogres and Bulgors at 5 wounds.
So the big thing though is giving your hero the monster keyword, then suddenly there were 5 models and an objective, so could very easily change it. But before we get out of it, like I said, we're not going to do a massive core rules. I know we've kind of jumped all over the place and we've kind of previewed a little bit about the GHB from what Games Workshop have said, but like Martin had kind of said, without the full picture and all the books in front of us, it's very hard to talk about how everything works and where stuff fits in. But the biggest thing, I think, in the GHB is the seismic shift. So at the start of the third battle round, after players roll off to determine who has the first turn, the player taking the second turn in that battle round can pick one objective marker on the battlefield and remove it from play.
See, now, I know you think this is a big one. I've seen a few people saying it's a big one. I'm going to be a pain. Until we see those battle plans.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We don't know how big this is, because I'm assuming that battle plans that previously just had 2 objectives are either going to have a rule that says they're exempt from this.
Yes.
Or they're gone.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very. You would hope that bringing this rule in, they would then do the battle plans with this in mind.
Yes, absolutely.
The previous few battle plans that we've had, they've been rehashes for many years now, and there's been 1 or 2 additional kind of missions, but you've always got like a Blood and Glory one or a Battle for the Past. It's just they've changed the way, like the size of the map. You go up the table instead of across, and Star Strike has been in there since I think the very first version I can think of, or what was the first one? It used to be called not Star Strike. It used to be called
Gift from the Heavens.
Gift from the Heavens. That's the one that had 2 objectives instead of 3, and there were always kind of little nuances of the original ones, but they've just tweaked them a little bit. Whereas these ones, like, they could very well be kind of tweaks of those, but they look as if they're all brand new, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, and I think for me the key here is, I jokingly said they're going to get rid of the ones with just 1 objective, but I never really enjoyed those anyway.
Yeah.
The ones where there were just 2 objectives, and because
horrible.
you had those situations where you're kind of like, well, I'm not moving from here.
Yeah, they're horrible. I mean, they became better because the original versions of them, it was 2 objectives, and you could only score if you had a unit with 5 or more models on each objective. And everyone went, that's horrible. I had missions where I had the triple chicken list. Like, when was that? Many years ago. But yeah, tabled my opponent, couldn't win the objective because I didn't have enough models. And it's like, well, I'm holding the 2 objectives right here. It's like, no, it doesn't count.
Exactly.
So yeah, I hope that they have got rid of those and kind of they're a lot more interactive and things like that. And the fact that you're losing an objective in the 3rd battle round still makes it a game where you can play it, and not you win priority turn 3. Oh, I'll go second. I'll take an extra command point, and I'm going to get rid of your 1 objective.
Yeah, and you do get games where turn 2 is the key turn, but more often than not, I think turn 3 is the one where you can swing a game one way or the other. Yeah. So I kind of it feels right that you kind of stay in the game until 3, if you're behind, and then in 3 you've got that opportunity to either take away an objective, or in order not to do that, your opponent obviously gives you first turn, and therefore you've got a chance to come back before that disappears.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a big thing. I agree. You need to wait for the actual battle plans to be revealed to see what it does. But I think you're going to see a lot of events where people are talking about a game going, oh, it was going amazing, but then they got turn 3 and then I lost that objective, and then it completely swung the game to like their favour, and then we had to etc. So,
which is what you want. You want games where you always feel like you've got a chance. Yeah. That you say, talk of the 3 games you had, over the weekend. Some of those where you say you kind of like you got to turn 2 and you more or less knew exactly what was going to happen.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So anything that can change that up is going to be a bonus.
Yeah, I can't wait to go. Yeah, the Kraken Eater, kick the objective, 36 inches over 3 turns up there. or 24 inches over the first 2 turns, and then they just deleted it. Things like that. So no, I think it's going to be a big change, and I think it's almost like a double turn, the priority rule kind of new thing for the game of what's going to happen with who's going to get the seismic shift and how.
Yeah, and again, that has been drip fed to us. We don't know what other things come in. They've already said that getting the second turn or going second kind of now will give you a lot more advantages than it used to.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if that's it, or if there's anything else that happens at another point by going second. It's already said you're going to get more command points. So, yeah, I like what they're doing, or what it appears they're doing so far, in that they haven't got rid of the potential double turn, which, I think a lot of people, I say a lot of people, there was a lot of noise from people about, that's what puts me off AoS, I don't like it, etc. But for a lot of people, it's the key selling point. So glad they've kept that. But I think what they're doing is they're trying to minimize the impact of it.
Yes. Yeah.
So that it's not that be all and end all. Oh, well, my opponent got the double turn going from 2 to 3, and all of a sudden I lost the game just because of that.
Yeah. Without the objectives, it's hard to say. I still think if you get a double turn, like you said, 2 to 3, where you're in key positions, I don't think it really matters if you go second. It doesn't matter if you go first, if you've got the opportunity to basically sever most of their army. I don't care if my opponent gets 2 command points and they can remove an objective. If I can get rid of most of their army,
yeah,
then who cares? But yeah, it's, I don't know. It's one of those where it's just like, I love the priority roll. It's one of those things. Part of me kind of wishes that actually, if you rolled the priority roll, then it's basically whoever wins it has to go first, rather than having a choice. Might change it up a bit, because you're still kind of rolling and you're trying to get that double turn, but it's not I've won it. Oh, I can choose what I want to do now. Like, you've got priority, but you're going to go second, if that makes sense. But that it is what it is. It's kind of neither here nor there. There's probably a reason why you can choose, like that, there's a reason clearly in the rules of why you can choose and why it's not good to just go, right, you roll off and then whoever wins it has to go first. They probably did test that and see how that played, but no, it's all exciting. Like we said, we're not going to go any more in depth, because without the GHB and without everything else, then we don't know. I'm going to read these rules probably 2 or 3 more times, but I'm very much a person that has to play a game while reading the rules, and I can read a rule book 4 or 5 times, but until I start playing it, it doesn't really kind of sink into me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I struggle to visualize it. You hear of these people and some others out there that can kind of like read a rule book and then, or just read one rule and automatically go, oh well, and you're like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I kind of need to get a couple of repetitions through first, and then start to go, all right, okay, fine, I see that. Now I can do this, and this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once I start playing it, it'll take me 2 or 3 games before it's like properly sank into my head of like, okay, I know how to play this. But like I said, I can read this rulebook 2 or 3 times now, and bits of it will go into my head. But yeah, it's better to have one day of just gaming and go, right, yeah, I've got it now. And there's a few guys down the club that joke that like they always go to me for rule questions. And I can remember it's in my head because I've played it in the past, but I couldn't do it if I just read the book.
Just read it, yeah.
And
no, I think there'll be a lot of games going on once this drops, of everybody trying to like work out how everything works together, etc.
That's the thing. It's building your new lists and working out how they work. It's learning the game almost from the ground up again because a lot of things have changed.
Yep.
It's exciting. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
It's definitely something that AoS has needed. Like AoS 2 was very much just a patch on to the changes they'd made throughout AoS 1. Like, a few changes were in place, but it was still very much, it felt like a 1.5 almost of...
Yeah, they introduced a number of new concepts, didn't they? Like the endless spells, etc.
Yeah.
But they didn't change the fundamentals.
No. Whereas this is they've rebuilt it almost from the ground up, and the amount of things you can now do in your opponent's phase, and how you use command abilities and command points, and all of this, it's going to take a while to get used to, but I can't wait. And yeah, it's going to be excellent. But like I said, until GHB is out, then we just don't know what's happening. And you just don't know how to work it all out, and until you've got points, because you can write the best list in the world looking at what the rules say, but...
Yeah, and I think that's where people are struggling at the moment, is you've got all these great ideas, but you don't know how to write a list to make it all work.
Yeah, I don't, because at the minute, the only thing that's been previewed by influencers, if we want to call them, or whatever, is Dominion. So you don't know who's got the GHB and whether that gets revealed on Saturday when pre-orders go live, or whether the GHB doesn't get previewed. But you'd have a feeling that probably in the next, I'd say in the next week, that slowly some of the points on the potato cams will get leaked.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be utterly shocked if by the end of next week the majority of the points aren't leaked one way or the other.
Can I just say, while people are taking photos, learn how to take a photo. It's not that hard. Like, I just don't understand who has the shakiest hands trying to take pictures of this. It's either excitement or they just don't know how to use a camera. Like, you literally touch the screen to focus, take the screenshot.
They're always rushing quickly, like, before anybody sees me. But yeah. I struggle to believe that every single leaked photo
is out of focus and partly cropped, and like it's not that hard. Like, my 5-year-old takes better photos than people that take potato cam photos.
Yeah.
And most of them are just of his toys or a random bit of the garden. It's like, but I would rather stare at them than I would at blurry pictures of Stormcast new points. So come on, pull your finger out, get some proper photos. But hopefully one of the other YouTube channels will do some proper camera previews, and we'll actually get to see what the points are. But
absolutely, and it'll be good. I think that's probably, yes, we'll still need the GHB in total, and I'll still need everything. But I think once you start to get some points, you can start to get your head around what can and can't fit in.
Planning it. Like, I've got Kragnos on the painting table, because I bought him kind of when he came out, and I was like, right, okay, that'll be a nice little project just to paint. But apart from that, I'm not doing anything at the minute, because I just don't know what to do. Like,
yeah, and I'm trying to work out where I go. I'm sat looking now. I think I've got probably 5 options at the moment. I've still got my Deepkin, and I've still got my Zinch and my Seraphon.
Yeah.
Any of those I could just tweak, depending on how I need to. And then I've got my dwarves and my squigs that need painting up. But I just no idea which one I'm going to go with, to be honest. I think if the Deepkin doesn't get major changes, points-wise, they'll probably just remain as the main one until I go with paint something else up.
Makes sense, yeah.
But Seraphon are the potential ones, because it's a monster mash Seraphon, so
yeah,
it's kind of like keeps pulling me back. But then, having said all of that, the dwarves are still shouting, we'll kill some monsters for you, don't worry.
No, I'm going to paint up Kragnos. I think I'm painting up Battle Bunker's demo copy of Dominion, so I will actually be getting a copy of Dominion this week, which will be nice, but I'm painting it up and sending it back down to the store in a week, so I'm going to try and get some painting videos done for them, because that'd be quite nice to get done. But apart from that, it's kind of just waiting until Dominion and waiting until points, because I just don't want to start anything. I've got a whole entire new Seraphon army up on the shelf, but I don't want to build anything because I just don't know how it all
Don't know
fits.
what's what, do you?
Yeah.
No.
So it's just twiddling my thumbs. I've probably just got on the PlayStation and Xbox for the next couple of weeks and
Just read
wait
the
it out.
rules. Read the rules. Keep reading those rules.
Yeah, and get it into my brain and try and get a couple of practice games in using the new rules. But
Yeah.
again, it's a new table size, and you kind of need the new missions to do the new table size. I mean, you can play on a 6x4 with the old missions, I suppose, but using the new rules. But yeah, it's a
Doesn't
little
quite
bit.
feel right, does it?
Little bit janky. Like, I'm playing on Thursday down at Battle Bunker, and Jim wants to play AoS 2, and I was like, that's fine. I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind playing that until AoS 3 comes out properly, when everyone can read it. But I'm not going to be playing AoS 2 come July the 3rd.
No, absolutely. We'll be straight into it.
Yeah. But I think we'll get out of here, and I'll say probably we will be back next week. I'm trying to do weekly episodes at the minute, just because obviously everything's so big, change-wise. And maybe next week we'll maybe talk about some of our favourite changes or something in the game, or I don't know. Like I said, it's a bit hard to work out without the GHB and whatnot. So we will work it out. If not, I'll probably get a special guest on and we can waffle on about something else.
Yep.
But if they want to catch you on the Twitter and Instagrams, how can they find you?
At martinswaffield for both Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm at Tales of Wargames. And don't forget, we have the Tales of Wargames YouTube channel. And like I said, we will be doing lots of painting videos for AoS 3 launching. So I'm looking forward to that. But until next time, take care and we'll see you soon.
Good night.